The metallic tang of the salt-laced air scrapes your throat, a familiar, acrid comfort now. You stand amidst the towering geometry of stacked shipping containers in the port of entry cargo inspection bay, a sentinel of the mundane. The ceaseless clang of distant cranes, the guttural thrum of idling trucks, these are the rhythms of your new existence, a stark counterpoint to the sharp, decisive beats of your former life. Each container, a sealed enigma, passes before you on the conveyor, its manifest a brief flicker on your monitor, its contents a fleeting curiosity. You are looking for anomalies, for the misplaced, the forbidden, a ghost of the pursuit that once defined you. Your fingers, calloused now from the repetitive grip of the scanner, trace the worn edges of the inspection tablet. The fluorescent lights overhead cast a pallid glow, stripping the world of its color, much like the years have stripped away the vibrant ambition that once fueled you. A phantom ache resides deep in your chest, a constant reminder of the badge surrendered, the reputation shattered. Marcus Thorne. The name echoes in the hollow chambers of your memory, a testament to a brilliance once acknowledged, now merely a whisper of what could have been. You shift your weight, the heavy utility belt digging into your hip. There's a tightness in your jaw, a lingering tension that refuses to dissipate, a physical manifestation of the unresolved. The cold case, the one that broke you, a brilliant journalist's murder, still gnaws at the edges of your thoughts, a relentless current beneath the placid surface of your enforced apathy. They called it random, a tragic misstep in a dangerous world. You knew better. You always knew better. The truth, however, had been buried beneath layers of influence and indifference, taking your career with it. The rhythmic clatter of the conveyor belt suddenly falters, then resumes with an unsettling lurch. You glance up, expecting a mechanical fault, but instead, your eyes snag on a figure standing at the edge of your designated inspection zone, a stark silhouette against the backdrop of industrial gray. The visitor carries a slim attaché case, its polished leather reflecting the harsh overhead lights. He doesn't belong here, not with the grime and the sweat and the resigned weariness that permeates this place. A prickle of something akin to alarm, a sensation long dormant, stirs within you. Your hand instinctively hovers near the sturdy, regulation-issue baton at your side, a muscle memory from a life you abandoned. The visitor's gaze is direct, unwavering, assessing. He walks with a quiet confidence that borders on arrogance, each step deliberate, unhurried. He stops a few feet away, the industrial din seeming to recede, leaving an unnatural quiet between you. Marcus Thorne, the visitor's voice is low, cultured, cutting through the ambient noise with an unexpected precision. It's not a question, but a statement of undeniable fact. You offer no reply, merely a steady, unblinking stare. Your eyes, once sharp enough to dissect a crime scene, now hold a weary skepticism, a shield against intrusion. My apologies for the intrusion, he continues, a faint smile playing on his lips, a gesture that doesn't quite reach his eyes. But I believe we have a mutual interest. He gestures subtly towards the endless parade of containers. This environment. It certainly fosters a unique perspective, wouldn't you agree? You finally speak, your voice a gravelly murmur. My perspective is limited to what's on the manifest. Whether it matches the contents. Nothing more. The visitor's smile widens fractionally. Indeed. A commendable focus. But some things, Mr. Thorne, exist beyond the manifest. Beyond the official records. Things that require a different kind of scrutiny. He pauses, letting the words hang in the air, weighted with unspoken meaning. The murder of the investigative journalist Elias Vance. The one they wrote off as a street robbery gone wrong. The name hits you like a physical blow, a sudden, jarring impact that steals the air from your lungs. The phantom ache in your chest flares into a sharp, burning pain. Your knuckles whiten as you grip the inspection tablet. Elias Vance. The case that had been a crucible, forging your downfall. That case is closed, you state, your voice tighter, laced with a bitterness that surprises even you. Officially. Unofficially, it's a scar. Scars heal, Mr. Thorne, the visitor counters smoothly. Or they fester. Developments. New information has surfaced. Information that strongly suggests Vance's death was anything but random. Information that points to a far more intricate, far more dangerous web. You feel a tremor deep within, a spark of the old fire, a dangerous flicker of curiosity. You want to dismiss him, to turn away, to retreat into the safe, predictable monotony of your life here. But the name, Elias Vance, holds you captive, a tether to the past you can't quite sever. What kind of developments, you ask, the words escaping before you can rein them in. The vulnerability in your voice is a betrayal, a crack in the hardened facade you've built. The visitor's eyes gleam with a predatory satisfaction. Links, Mr. Thorne. Links to a prominent politician's current presidential campaign. Vance was close to something big, something that threatened to unravel them. His death was a silencing. You scoff, a dry, humorless sound. That's what I said, then. No one listened. They need someone who understands the threads, someone who isn't afraid to pull at them, regardless of whose tapestry might unravel. He opens the attaché case, revealing a single, thick manila folder nestled inside. This is your chance, Marcus Thorne. A chance to finish what you started. A chance at redemption. Your gaze drops to the folder, then back to his unwavering eyes. The clatter of the conveyor belt resumes its insistent rhythm, but you no longer hear it. The determination, long buried, begins to stir, a dangerous, exhilarating pulse in your veins. The insistent rhythm of the conveyor belt, a mechanical pulse, finally breaks through the silence that had settled heavy between you and the liaison. Your gaze, once locked on his unwavering eyes, now drifts, tracing the worn edges of the manila folder. The air, thick with the scent of diesel and distant brine, presses in, making each breath a conscious effort. It's a chance, Marcus, the liaison's voice, a low rumble, cuts through the din. He doesn't press, doesn't cajole. He merely states, a quiet declaration of the desperate gamble laid before you. He knows the weight of the badge you no longer wear, the phantom ache of a reputation shredded by a past you cannot outrun. He knows the ghosts that whisper your name in the quiet hours. You reach out, fingers hesitating inches from the folder. Or is it merely an insatiable hunger for answers, a need to untangle the threads of a failure that still chafes your soul? The unsolved murder of the brilliant investigative journalist, a case that had slipped through your grasp like water, now offered itself again, a poison chalice disguised as an olive branch. Your hand closes around the rough cardstock. The folder is cool beneath your touch, a deceptive coolness that promises to burn. The liaison's lips barely twitch. New information. Connections previously unseen. The journalist's death was never random, Marcus. You knew that then. We know it now. His eyes, sharp as obsidian, hold yours. It touches high places. Higher than you can imagine. A tremor, subtle as a spider's silk, runs through you. The promise of danger, a familiar companion, stirs something dormant. You nod, a single, decisive movement. The word yes remains unspoken, unnecessary. The folder in your hand, the flicker of grim determination in your eyes, speak volumes. Good, the liaison says, a hint of something unreadable in his tone. The city outside is a blur of motion, a symphony of horns and hurried footsteps, but your world has narrowed to the beige folder in your grasp. Back in the sparse quiet of your rented room, the city's cacophony muted by. Ancient brick, you lay the folder on the scarred wooden table. The overhead bulb casts a harsh, unflattering light on the worn edges, the faded official stamps. You take a slow, deep breath, the scent of stale coffee and old paper filling your nostrils. This is it. The beginning, or perhaps, the end. You open the folder. The first item is a faded photograph, the journalist, vibrant, defiant, their eyes alight with an unyielding curiosity. A face that had once haunted your sleep, now resurrected, demanding justice. Beneath it, a crime scene report, its language stark and clinical, detailing the scene of the murder, a quiet park bench, a single, precise wound. Dismissed as a street robbery gone wrong. A quick, clean narrative that never sat right. Flipping through the pages, your fingers brush against brittle forensic reports, witness statements, and the terse conclusion of the initial investigation. Case closed. No further leads. The words mock you from the past. But then, tucked deeper, almost forgotten, you find a collection of the journalist's personal notes. Scrawled observations, half-formed thoughts, names and dates scribbled in hurried shorthand. One name leaps out, underlined multiple times, Elias Vance. The current presidential candidate's campaign manager. A man whose face now dominates news cycles, his carefully constructed image plastered across every screen. Vance was a minor political operative back then, a name barely registered in the public consciousness. What connection could he have had to a relatively unknown journalist? The docks, the rail lines. Vance's early career, surprisingly rapid ascent. Who paved the way? Your eyes scan the names associated with the consortium, a few familiar, minor players from the city's corporate scene, but also one that sends a jolt through you, Senator Alastair Finch. A man now lauded as a pillar of integrity, a champion of the people, whose endorsement holds immense sway in the current election. The journalist had been digging into something far larger than a simple street robbery could explain. Their notes hint at a network, an unseen hand guiding the city's fortunes, manipulating its leaders. The random act dismissal now feels like a deliberate obscuration, a carefully constructed lie to bury a truth too dangerous to surface. You pull out a yellowed newspaper clipping from the folder. Dated just days after the journalist's murder, it features a small article about a charity gala hosted by Senator Finch, attended by a young, ambitious Elias Vance. A photo shows them shaking hands, smiling. Innocent enough on its own, but now, seen through the lens of the journalist's cryptic notes, it takes on a sinister hue. The temperature in the room seems to drop. The air thickens, not with diesel, but with the dust of forgotten secrets. A puzzle whose pieces are scattered across the political landscape, threatening to expose the very foundations of power. Your fingers trace the name Elias Vance in the journalist's frantic script. This isn't just about redemption anymore. This is about uncovering a truth that someone, powerful and ruthless, desperately wants to keep buried. And you, Marcus Thorne, the disgraced detective, are now holding the shovel. The flickering hope for absolution has solidified into a burning resolve. The game has begun, and you are irrevocably in it. The name, Alistair Finch, a gilded anchor in the swirling currents of your memory, pulls you forward. Your disgraced badge may be gone, but the detective's instinct, sharpened by dormancy, hums beneath your skin. The vastness of the space swallows sound, leaving only the distant groan of unseen cranes and the rhythmic, hollow lapping of dark water against unseen hulls. This place, a cavern of steel and shadow, is where the journalist's journey ended, and where your own descent into professional ruin began. The memory, sharp as a sliver of glass, slices through the intervening years. The chalk outline, a ghostly scar on the concrete floor, still vivid in your mind's eye. You trace the path, a phantom echo of the initial, botched investigation, your boots scuffing against the dust that seems to cling to the past, refusing to release its hold. Every shadow holds a ghost, every gust of wind whispers accusations. He is the security supervisor, a face from your previous life, a ghost of a shared past. The sound is flat, uninviting. Been a long time. It has, you reply, your voice steady, a deliberate counterpoint to his coolness. I'm revisiting the old case. The journalist. He shifts his weight, a subtle movement that speaks volumes, a silent tightening. Nothing new to say, Thorne. Everything was logged, every angle checked. A tragedy, that's all. The official report stands. His eyes drift, momentarily scanning the vast emptiness of the bay, as if searching for an escape. You were here that night, you pressed gently, your gaze unwavering, holding him. Did you see anything unusual? Any unfamiliar faces, any vehicles that didn't belong, anything out of place in this labyrinth of containers? He shakes his head, a dismissive gesture that feels rehearsed. The bay's always busy. 1,000 faces. Nothing stood out then, nothing stands out now. Best to let sleeping dogs lie, Marcus. Some things are better left buried. The implicit warning hangs in the damp air, a metallic taste on your tongue, a bitter prelude to what you already suspect. You ignore his words, your focus drawn to a section of the concrete wall, near where the body had been discovered. A small, almost imperceptible discoloration, a patch of concrete that seems to absorb light differently. You remember the initial sweep, the frantic energy, how rushed it felt, how many corners were cut in the rush to label at random, to close the file. You run your gloved fingers over the rough surface, a faint outline beneath the grime, a texture that hints at something unnatural. You crouch, pulling a small, specialized tool from your kit. With careful precision, you begin to scrape away the layers of dust in time, the fine particles drifting like memories. Beneath, a shallow cavity, expertly concealed, almost camouflaged by the aging concrete. Inside, nestled in a thin layer of protective foam, is a small, polished obsidian shard. Etched into its polished obsidian, almost invisible to the naked eye, is a stylized symbol, a coiled serpent, its head forming a tight knot, an abstract, elegant loop. You've seen this before. In the fragmented, half-erased notes of the journalist, mentioning a serpent's knot and a circle of influence. The consortium. The journalist wasn't just investigating, they were leaving breadcrumbs, a final, defiant message embedded in the very scene of their demise. Armed with this new, potent piece of the past, you seek out the record's manager, a woman whose office overlooks the vast cargo bay, a glass cage against the industrial sprawl. He was responsible for the initial evidence logs, a meticulous archivist of the mundane. Him spectacles perch on the bridge of him nose, him posture rigid, a fortress of procedure. Marcus Thorne, he states, his voice sharp, a brittle chime that cuts through the hum of the computers. I'm surprised to see you here. I thought your investigative days were behind you. Her tone carries a veiled judgment, a relic of your fall, a reminder of the chasm between your past and present. The past has a way of catching up, you counter, holding her gaze, refusing to flinch. I'm looking at the journalist's case again. Specifically, the initial processing of personal effects, the minutiae that might have been overlooked. She stiffens, her fingers drumming a nervous rhythm on her desk, a staccato beat of apprehension. Everything was documented. Every item accounted for. The official report is clear, concise, and exhaustive. Was anything unusual overlooked? You push, your voice soft but insistent, a quiet invasion of her carefully constructed calm. Anything that didn't quite fit the narrative? A detail that seemed insignificant then, but might hold meaning now? Her eyes dart to the closed office door, then back to you, a flicker of fear. There was nothing. The case was closed. You should respect that, Marcus. There are. The air in the office grows heavy, thick with unspoken threats, a palpable pressure against your resolve. The security supervisor's evasions, the records manager's thinly veiled threats, the expertly hidden clue, they coalesce into an undeniable truth. The journalist wasn't just close to exposing something significant, they had exposed it. The path ahead is clearer, but also infinitely more treacherous. You clutch the obsidian shard, its subtle weight a promise and a burden. This time, you will not fail. The colleague's words, brittle as old bone, still echo in the quiet chamber of your mind. Forces at play. A whisper of ice against the nape of your neck, yet it only stokes the embers of your resolve. Back in the sparse solitude of your borrowed workspace, the journalist's meticulous notes spread like a conspiracy map across the scarred tabletop. You sift through them, fingers tracing the hurried script, the underlined names, the dates that align with the politicians' early campaign rallies. The journalist had a keen eye for discrepancy, a relentless pursuit of the hidden ledger. You feel the ghost of their presence, a kindred spirit in the hunt for truth. A particular file catches your eye, tucked beneath a stack of campaign finance reports. It's thin, almost an afterthought, yet its contents hum with an unsettling energy. Scrawled across the top, a single, enigmatic phrase, Cerberus Holdings, the gatekeepers. Beneath it, a series of seemingly innocuous shipping manifests, cross-referenced with donation records to the politician's inaugural campaign. The dates overlap, the amounts suspiciously round. Cerberus Holdings, a name that rings no bells in the public sphere, yet here it is, a constant, low thrum beneath the surface of the politician's rise. You cross-reference the manifests, tracing the trajectory of specific shipments. Industrial machinery, designated for a remote construction project, yet the quantities seem excessive, the destinations vague. The journalist had circled certain entries, annotating them with question marks and cryptic abbreviations. One particular entry stands out, a consignment marked fragile components destined for an abandoned factory site, yet routed through an unusual intermediary. Your gut clenches. This isn't just about campaign finance, It's about something far more substantial, a clandestine operation masked by legitimate commerce. The journalist's last entry is a single, coordinates-laden post-it note, tucked inside the Cerberus file. A precise location, scrawled with an urgency that screams of imminent discovery. Your breath catches. The air thickens with the brine of the ocean and the exhaust of diesel engines. Cranes stretch skeletal arms against the bruised twilight sky, lifting and dropping metal behemoths with a dancer's brutal grace. The vastness swallows sound, distorts perspective. You navigate the maze of stacked containers, their painted sides scarred with rust and shipping labels from forgotten corners of the world. The coordinates lead you to a specific sector, a desolate stretch where fewer lights burn, where the hum of activity feels more muted, more clandestine. A single, unmarked container, its paint faded to a dull gray, sits isolated on a rarely used spur track. This must be it. The journalist had sensed something here, something vital. Then another. You are not alone. A hulking figure emerges, framed by the stark glare of a distant floodlight. Their face is obscured by the brim of a cap, but the bulk of their shoulders, the deliberate, measured pace, speaks of intent. You scan your surroundings, the vastness suddenly a trap. There's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide amidst the open expanse of the bay. You're digging where you shouldn't, Thorne, a voice rumbles, low and gravelly, cutting through the ambient roar of the port. It's not a question. It's a statement, a verdict. You hold your ground, feigning an indifference you don't feel. Just admiring the scenery. Never seen so much steel in one place. Another figure steps out, smaller, leaner, but with a predatory stillness. They carry something that glints dully in their hand. A wrench, perhaps, or something heavier. The scenery here can be dangerous, especially for those who don't belong. Your eyes dart between them, assessing angles, potential escape routes. The container you were investigating is now behind them. They've cut off your access. This isn't intimidation, it's an ambush. Your breath hitches, the air suddenly thin. The larger figure takes another step, closing the distance. Last chance, Thorne. Walk away. Forget the journalist. Forget Cerberus. Forget the politician. The mention of Cerberus confirms it. You're on the right track, dangerously so. A jolt of adrenaline courses through your veins, sharpening your senses. You notice a loose pallet, splintered and discarded, half hidden by a cargo net. You duck low, grabbing the edge of the pallet, hauling it up with a grunt, sending it clattering forward. It's a meager distraction, but enough. The figure stumbles, caught off balance. The smaller one hesitates, their weapon glinting. This is your window. The chase is immediate, a thunder of heavy boots on concrete. You hear shouts, the frustrated curses of your pursuers. Your lungs burn, a frantic drum against your ribs. You know this dance, the desperate sprint for survival. The heavy footsteps thunder past, echoing, then fading slightly. Your heart still hammers a frantic rhythm against your ribs, a visceral reminder of the close call. The stakes have just been raised, etched into your consciousness with the very real threat of violence. The journalist wasn't just investigating a story, they were uncovering a conspiracy so profound, so dangerous, that its architects would kill to keep it buried. The smaller one hesitates, their weight shifting, a momentary lapse. You don't wait. The pallet, a splintered shield, still clatters between you and the larger assailant, buying precious seconds. Your muscles scream, but a primal urge for survival overrides the pain. You weave through the narrow canyons formed by towering cargo, each colossal metal box a potential hiding spot or a dead end. Footsteps echo behind you, heavy and persistent. The larger figure bellows, a guttural sound that vibrates through the corrugated steel walls. You hear the smaller one's lighter, quicker pace, a relentless shadow. A gap appears. A forklift, abandoned mid-task, its tines raised, offers a momentary screen. You duck behind it, heart hammering against your ribs, not with fear, but a cold, sharp adrenaline. You press yourself against the cold metal, listening. The sounds of pursuit grow louder, then, confusingly, they split. One set of footsteps peels off, circling wide. The other approaches your position directly. They're trying to flank you. You know this tactic. You've used it. You've taught it. A bitter taste coats your tongue. This isn't just a random ambush, these are professionals. Before the direct approach can round the forklift, you burst from cover. Not running away, but towards the source of the circling footsteps. It's a gamble, a desperate feint. You shove, use their own momentum against them, sending them stumbling back. No time to retrieve it. The smaller figure is closing in from the other side. You bolt, heading for a narrow passage between two colossal refrigerated containers, their hum a low, constant thrum. You slide through, scraping your jacket, and emerge into a wider aisle, closer to the main loading docks. The figures are momentarily delayed, too broad or too slow to navigate the tight squeeze. You don't look back. You sprint across the concrete expanse, past idling trucks and the skeletal cranes reaching towards the gray sky. The gate is open, guarded by a lone, bored-looking security officer whose attention is fixed on a smartphone. You're a blur, a ghost slipping through the periphery, merging with the pre-dawn. Gloom before anyone can react. Safe, for now. The salty air bites at your lungs. Your mind races, replaying the chaotic dance. The falling object. It nags at you. Something important. Against your better judgment, against every instinct screaming to put distance between yourself and that place, you turn back. The security officer is still engrossed. The figures haven't emerged. You find it nestled in the damp earth beneath the chain-link fence, almost invisible in the dim light, a small, water-damaged notebook, its cover a muted olive green, the kind issued by police departments for field notes. It's not yours. It couldn't be. You remember the journalist, the way they always carried a similar, meticulously organized notebook. You retrieve it, fingers brushing against the still damp cover. The pages are warped, some stuck together, but the faint, precise handwriting is unmistakable. This is their notebook. The journalists. How did it end up here, dropped by one of your assailants? You flip through the fragile leaves, your breath catching. Dates, times, names, some familiar, some not. Observations about shipping manifests, shell corporations, political donations. Then, a page, heavily circled and underlined, stands out. A case number. Your blood turns to ice. Not a random case. Not a new one. It's the case. The one that consumed your early career, the one that broke you, the one that led to your disgrace. The unsolved murder of the journalist was intertwined with your downfall. You missed this. How could you have missed this? This wasn't just a symbol. It was a code. A code you knew. A code shared only by you and one other person during your time on the force. The senior detective. Your former partner. The man who had mentored you, who had stood by you through the early, grueling cases. The man you had trusted with your life, with your career, with your deepest confidences. The symbols weren't just a code, they were a key. And next to it, a single, cryptic phrase, Doc 17. Oversight. Oversight. Not just supervision, but intentional oversight. A deliberate blindness. A planted misdirection. You remember the official report for that infamous case, the one that ended your career. You remember the senior detective's insistent steering of the investigation away from certain leads, his dismissal of what he called fringe theories. You had attributed it to his experience, his desire for efficiency. You had trusted him. A wave of nausea washes over you. And the senior detective, your mentor, your friend, was not just involved, but actively complicit. He had betrayed you, betrayed the badge, betrayed justice. The determined glint in your eyes hardens, but it's now laced with a profound, agonizing sorrow. You grip the notebook, its fragile pages now a heavy burden. The game has changed. And the enemy wears a familiar face. Towering steel containers, painted in a brutalist palette of rust and faded primary colors, loom like forgotten monoliths, casting long, distorted shadows under the mercury vapor lamps. The vast space echoes with the distant clang of machinery, the cry of gulls, and the low hum of refrigeration units. You are a ghost here, a phantom of your former authority, moving through the labyrinthine aisles with a practiced stealth born of desperation. Your contact, a weary-eyed logistics clerk whose daughter you once helped with a minor infraction, had given you the tip. A manifest. A single, innocuous line entry for a shipment of antiquated textiles that passed through this very bay around the time the journalist vanished. The official report, the one you remember so vividly, dismissed it as routine. But your gut, now sharpened by the bitter taste of betrayal, screams otherwise. That senior detective, so insistent on redirecting your gaze, had blind spots the size of these shipping crates. Or, more accurately, created them. You navigate the maze, your eyes scanning the faded markings, the container numbers, the inspection tags. The cold seeps into your bones, but a different chill, one of focused determination, burns in your chest. The journalist had been meticulous, obsessive. They wouldn't have just followed a lead, they would have planted one. A breadcrumb for someone diligent enough to find it. Someone like you, now stripped of everything but your resolve. You find the section. The specific container number, scrawled on a fragment of the journalist's notes you'd painstakingly reassembled, finally appears. Caked in dust, its corrugated steel skin bears the scars of countless journeys. Cultural artifacts, destination, private collection. A perfect cover. Who would scrutinize ancient fabrics? The lock is intact, a heavy-duty seal. But you're not looking to break in. You're looking for what was missed. The intentional oversight. You recall the standard inspection protocol, the quick visual sweeps, the reliance on external documentation. A clever hiding place would exploit that superficiality. There. A subtle give. Not a panel, not a latch. A small, almost imperceptible seam where the floor plating meets a support beam, thicker than it should be. A tiny, circular depression, camouflaged by rust and dirt. You press it. With a soft, almost inaudible click, a small, square section of the floor, no larger than your hand, retracts inward a fraction of an inch, then springs outward. Your breath hitches. A portable data storage device, custom-made. The journalist's final message. You pull it out, the cold metal a sudden weight in your palm. The air seems to thicken around you, the distant sounds of the port fading to a dull thrum. This isn't just a clue, it's the core. Your fingers, surprisingly steady, connect the device. A rush of data fills the screen. Not just files, but a meticulously organized web of information. The journalist had been building a case, brick by agonizing brick. A hushed conversation. You recognize the politician's voice, unmistakable in its practiced cadence, but laced with an unsettling urgency. Then, a photograph. A blurred image of the politician, shaking hands with a figure whose face is obscured, but whose posture and the distinctive signet ring on his finger perfectly match the leader of the organization that ruined you. The same man whose influence reached into the highest offices, twisting justice, pulling strings. The next file contains a direct order, an internal memo from the Phoenix Initiative to its operational oversight. It doesn't explicitly name the journalist, but the description is unmistakable: a threat level alpha. The investigative journalist is nearing critical exposure of Project Phoenix. Immediate and decisive action is required to neutralize the threat. Dated the day before the murder. The pieces fall into place with a horrifying, undeniable clarity. The senior detective's steering, the official report's convenient omissions, the swift closure of the case, it was all orchestrated. Not just to protect the politician, but to bury the Phoenix Initiative and its architects. It's not the searing anger of a younger man, but a quiet, implacable fury. It's about truth. It's about every other life twisted by these unseen hands. You look at the small data device in your hand, then at the vast, indifferent bay. The risks are astronomical. They will come for you. They will try to bury you again, permanently this time. But the weight of this evidence, the undeniable proof of their corruption and the murder they commanded, is a burden you can no longer shirk. You made a promise to yourself, a silent vow to the journalist's memory, and to the ghost of the man you used to be. There is no turning back. This is your war now. Your gaze, a frantic moth drawn to a searing truth, snags on the final flourish of the document. The Phoenix Initiative Project Overview concludes not with words, but with an emblem. A stylized bird, wings unfurled, claws gripping a globe, rises from a pyre of flame. A phoenix. It is the very symbol you saw subtly woven into the politician's campaign literature, a detail you dismissed as mere branding, now searing itself into your consciousness as a mark of ownership, a promise of violent rebirth. This isn't just about money, it's a blueprint for a new world order, forged in the ashes of the old, and the journalist, brilliant and incisive, was a flickering candle flame against their coming dawn. A distant thud, a metallic clang from deeper within the abandoned factory, slices through the sudden silence of your discovery. It is not the familiar groan of settling steel, but a deliberate sound, too close, too heavy. Your breath hitches. They know. The air, already thick with the scent of rust and decay, now feels charged with a predatory awareness. Your fingers, trembling slightly, snatch the drive, tucking it into the inner pocket of your worn jacket. Every instinct honed over years of street-level survival screams at you to move, to vanish. You melt into the labyrinthine shadows, your steps muffled by the debris underfoot. The factory, once a sanctuary of forgotten secrets, becomes a cage. Footfalls, heavier now, echo from the main hall, growing steadily louder. They are not subtle. They want you to know they are coming. Through a grimy window, you glimpse the glare of flashing lights painting the night sky beyond the factory gates. Patrol vehicles. They aren't just sending their private muscle, they're pulling official strings. You are officially compromised, a rogue element in a meticulously constructed game. A voice, amplified and distorted, booms through the cavernous space. Marcus Thorne. This is your last chance. Come out now, and we can discuss this civilly. It is the voice of the enforcer, the one you've seen at the politicians' rallies, a man whose smile never quite reaches his eyes. Civilly. The word tastes like ash. Your mind races, sifting through escape routes, contingencies. The back alley exit is likely covered. The roof access? Too exposed. Your eyes scan the factory floor, past dormant machinery, past crates stacked high like forgotten monuments. The old underground service tunnels. Risky, labyrinthine, but perhaps overlooked. Dropping to a crouch, you scuttle towards a rusted grate, half hidden beneath a pile of discarded tarpaulins. Your fingers find the corroded bolts, working them loose with a grim urgency. The booming voice grows closer, followed by the clatter of boots on concrete. Time is a rapidly draining hourglass. The grate gives way with a screech of tortured metal. The tunnel is narrow, claustrophobic, but it is freedom, for now. You crawl, then half-crouch run, the sounds of the pursuit fading into a muffled thrum above. The world above is still asleep, but for you, the night has just begun. You need to disappear, but first, you need answers, and you need them fast. Your mind circles back to the Phoenix Initiative, the politician, the journalist. Towering cranes, skeletal against the bruised purple of the dawn sky, lift colossal containers with an almost delicate grace. The air vibrates with the growl of diesel engines, the hiss of hydraulic brakes, and the distant, mournful cry of a ship's horn. You move like a phantom through the maze of stacked steel, your eyes scanning for a familiar face, a specific container, anything to indicate Silas's presence. Suddenly, a hand clamps down on your shoulder. You spin, muscles coiled, ready to strike, but relax as you recognize the weathered face of a colleague from your old precinct, a detective who had always believed in your integrity, even after your fall. His eyes are tired, wary. Marcus, he breathes, his voice a low rasp. You're a ghost. They're looking for you everywhere. Warrants out for obstruction, tampering. They're calling you a flight risk. They're framing me, you counter, your voice tight. I found something big. The Phoenix Initiative. It links the politician directly to the journalist's murder, to a network of shell corporations, offshore accounts. The detective shakes his head, his gaze sweeping the bustling bay. I know. Silas reached out. He said he had a package, something the journalist left for him, meant for you. If anything happened. He was supposed to drop it here, specific container, but he vanished this morning. Clean. Said, container 734, marked with the rising sun. He always was a cryptic old bastard. Your mind races. Rising sun? Not a phoenix. But a sun rises. A deliberate misdirection, perhaps, or a coded message from Silas. Container 734. You repeat the number, filing it away. Did he say anything else? Only that it was proof. Proof that the politician wasn't just funding a campaign, but funding a takeover. And that the journalist was about to expose the whole thing, not just the money, but the names behind the Phoenix. He said, "They're not just politicians, Marcus. They're architects of a new world." The words hit you with the force of a physical blow. Architects. And the journalist had the names. This is not merely about a political campaign, it is about absolute control. Your gaze snaps to the endless rows of containers. Container 734. Marked with the rising sun. It's here. You can't go looking for it, the detective warns, his hand still firm on your arm. They've got eyes everywhere. The Port Authority, Customs. The truth is within reach, nestled within a steel box amidst a million others. You are the one who will bring the fire. The hunt ignites your blood, Marcus. You move through the pre-dawn city like a shadow cast by a ghost, the stolen vehicle a temporary cloak against the encroaching light. The air here is thick with the scent of diesel and brine, a metallic tang that scrapes at the back of your throat. Giant gantries, like skeletal beasts, loom against the bruised sky, their cables groaning under the unseen weight of slumbering titans. Security is a joke for those who know where to look, a porous membrane for a man who has spent a lifetime dissecting weaknesses. You slip through a gap in a chain-link fence, a forgotten service entrance, the rusted hinges whining a soft complaint against your intrusion. Stacks of containers rise like monolithic monuments, each a sealed tomb of goods destined for distant shores. Your gaze sweeps over the numbered behemoths, a single, cryptic code from the journalist's recovered files burning in your mind, a 73, Bay Delta 9. It was a puzzle piece, dismissed as irrelevant until now, its meaning blossoming into stark clarity. The hum of distant machinery vibrates through the concrete floor, a low thrumming that becomes the rhythm of your own pulse. You weave between the colossal stacks, your footsteps muffled by the gritty dust, your senses alert to every creak, every distant shout. The air chills you to the bone, a damp cold that seeps into your bones, but the fire of purpose within you burns hotter. You pass a half-empty crate of electronics, its contents glinting faintly in the sparse overhead lights. The smell of treated timber and sea salt fills your nostrils. Bay Delta 9. You find it, a cavernous section where containers are temporarily held for customs scrutiny. Forklifts stand silent, their tines raised like predatory claws. And there, amidst a sea of identical boxes, you spot it. A dull gray container, its side emblazoned with the familiar A73 marking. A shiver, not of fear but of potent anticipation, traces a path down your spine. This is it. This is where the truth sleeps. You yank open the heavy doors, revealing not a cargo of mundane goods, but a precisely organized interior. This container isn't for shipping, it's a mobile vault. Within, nestled securely in a reinforced compartment, is a small, anodized steel box. Another lock, a digital one this time, demands your attention. The journalist's final, desperate message had contained a sequence of numbers, seemingly random. Now, you understand. You tap the code, each digit a beat in a drumroll of revelation. The lock clicks, a soft, final sigh. Inside, resting on a bed of archival foam, are two objects, a microSD card and a slim, leather-bound ledger. Your fingers, steady despite the tremor in your soul, retrieve them. The microSD, holds the encrypted communications, the financial transfers, the digital breadcrumbs of a conspiracy. But it is the ledger, its pages thin and brittle, that pulls at your gaze. You open it carefully. Neatly inscribed entries fill the pages, a meticulous record of meetings, dates, and names. Not full names, but initials, code names, and specific identifying markers. You see the prominent politicians' initials, followed by dates that precisely align with the journalist's last known investigations. And then, a series of entries detailing a disbursement of funds, a clear payment for discretionary services, dated just days before the journalist's body was found. The meticulous hand, the precise timing, the undeniable links, it all paints a picture of premeditated murder, orchestrated from the highest echelons. This isn't just proof, it's an indictment. It's the smoking gun, the final, undeniable piece of the puzzle that links the politician, the hand, and the journalist's murder into a single, horrifying tapestry of corruption and death. You close the ledger, the weight of it in your hands a physical manifestation of the burden you now carry. This evidence, once exposed, will shatter a presidential campaign, unravel a powerful network, and bring down titans. You cannot simply walk into a precinct. You cannot simply leak this. They would bury it, bury you, and the truth along with you. No. A direct challenge. A confrontation that forces their hand, drags them into the light. You know they will come for you, that this act makes you a target, the most dangerous kind. You are walking into a trap. You accept it. Using a burner phone, its encryption layered like an onion, you compose a message. Short, precise, devastating. You send it to the politician's secure, private line, a number you'd once found buried deep in a classified file during your active days. I have the ledger. I have the data. Everything. Meet me tonight, midnight. The old abandoned factory, Sector 7, on the edge of the docks. Alone. Or the world sees it all by dawn. You watch the message send, a small, green check mark appearing on the screen. The trap is set. The final act has begun. You watch the message send, a small, green check mark appearing on the screen. The trap is set. The bay is a cathedral of commerce, echoing with the distant thrum of unseen engines. Towering stacks of shipping containers, a labyrinth of steel, cast long, distorted shadows under the mercury vapor lamps. Each box holds a secret, a journey, a destination. Your gaze sweeps across the expanse, cataloging the gantry cranes frozen mid-reach, the forklifts slumbering in their bays, the heavy chains draped like slumbering serpents. This place, a nexus of global trade, was also a tomb. A low rumble, distinct from the port's usual symphony, vibrates through the concrete floor. Headlights slice through the industrial gloom, growing brighter, closer. They stop in a line, engines idling, a predatory purr. First out is the strategist, a lean figure whose tailored suit seems too refined for the gritty surroundings. His eyes, sharp as obsidian shards, find you instantly. Beside him, the campaign manager, a woman whose public smile usually hid a steel trap mind, now wears a mask of grim calculation. No words are exchanged, only the silent language of intent. Marcus Thorne, the strategist's voice cuts through the industrial quiet, calm, almost amused. A fool's errand, wasn't it? Chasing phantoms. You step forward, the soles of your boots scraping against the concrete, the sound amplified in the vast space, encompassing the entire scene. You killed a brilliant journalist here, years ago. Made it look like an accident with a shifting container. A tragic miscalculation, the report said. But the report was wrong, wasn't it? Just old grievances. I have the truth, you counter, the words ringing with an iron certainty. The journalist wasn't investigating a simple trade irregularity. They were documenting the trafficking of stolen antiquities, hidden within legitimate shipments. Not on their person, but cleverly hidden. They knew the risks. They recorded a conversation, a plan. A specific container ID, a falsified manifest number. The original investigation, conveniently, never looked for it. The strategist's gaze hardens, losing its amusement. A recording? After all this time? His eyes dart to his enforcers, a subtle command passing between them. Not just a recording, you continue, refusing to be rushed. The journalist's final report, incomplete but damning, spoke of a signature. A unique method of packaging the artifacts, designed to bypass routine inspection. His complicity is undeniable. The journalist found the proof in the discrepancies between the shipping logs and the actual manifests. The dead giveaway was a specific type of industrial adhesive used to seal the false compartments, a brand only used by one local supplier, who just so happened to be owned by a holding company linked to the politician's family. One of the enforcers, a hulking figure with shoulders like granite, begins to move, slowly circling to your left. The air crackles with unspoken threats. The journalist was cornered here, you press on, your voice unwavering. They tried to escape, to reach their contact. But they were intercepted. Not crushed by a falling container, but suffocated, then placed to look like an accident. The original report mentioned bruising inconsistent with impact trauma. Sent to every news outlet, every watchdog agency, every rival campaign. A dead man's switch. You move on me, and the world hears everything. The campaign manager looks distraught, her perfectly coiffed hair now seeming out of place amidst the rising tension. The enforcers, however, are undeterred. You pivot, your years of training kicking in, the muscle memory a faithful companion. You duck under his swinging arm, the air whistling past your ear. You grab a nearby length of heavy chain, pulling it taut, using its weight as a momentary barrier. The clang of metal against concrete rings out as another enforcer closes in, a glint of steel in his hand. You underestimated the dead, you rasp, pulling the chain back, ready for the next strike. And you underestimated the man who refused to let them stay buried. The fight has begun. The truth is out there, now. Your mission shifts from revelation to survival. The granite-shouldered enforcer's lunge is met not with a block, but a sidestep, your body a current flowing around an obstacle. Your elbow, a honed instrument of blunt force, finds the junction beneath his ear, a precise strike. You parry a wide swing, the air hissing past your face, and pivot into his space, your knee driving upward. A gasp, a sudden, sharp exhalation of breath, and he folds, hands clutching his abdomen, sinking to his knees. A metallic clang echoes in the vast space as something small and hard skitters across the stained concrete. Your eyes, already tracking movement, catch the glint of a device, no larger than your palm, spinning to a halt near a stack of crates marked for overseas delivery. The campaign manager, her earlier composure utterly shattered, stands frozen, her eyes wide with a terror that mirrors your own grim resolve. "Stay down," you command, your voice low, resonant, carrying the weight of exhaustion and adrenaline. Your gaze, sharp as broken glass, pins the strategist. He hesitates, his fingers hovering inches from the device, then slowly, reluctantly, retracts them. You move swiftly, sweeping the device from the floor. This is it. This is the thread. The heavy door to the bay groans open, spilling the harsh glare of floodlights into the already stark interior. Uniformed officers pour in, their weapons raised, their faces grim and professional. He stops when his gaze lands on you, then on the three figures you've subdued. "Said there was trouble here." You nod, the word trouble a vast understatement. "You're late," you reply, the corner of your mouth twitching. But not too late. The strategist, the campaign manager, and their muscle. All accounted for. You gesture to the device in your hand. "And this. I believe this is what you're looking for." The detective's eyes narrow, taking in the small, formidable object. He signals to his officers, who move in with practiced efficiency, securing the two enforcers and the strategist. The campaign manager, tears now silently tracing paths through her carefully applied makeup, offers no resistance as he is led away. You watch as the detective's team begins to process the scene. Forensic technicians in sterile white suits arrive, their kits clanking softly. He gestures to the device you still hold. "An encrypted satellite phone, I think," you explain, your voice hoarse. "Or something similar. He dropped it when I moved in. I have a feeling it contains the key to everything." You hand it over, the small rectangle feeling immensely significant in his palm. It likely holds communication logs, perhaps even financial transfers. The link to the politician. The full scope of their operation. The detective's expression hardens, his jaw clenching. He understands the gravity of your words, the seismic shift this discovery will unleash. He turns the device over in his gloved hands, then carefully places it into an evidence bag, sealing it with a practiced snap. "We'll get this to our tech team," he assures you, his gaze meeting yours. "If it's what you say it is, this changes everything." The journalist. "It wasn't just a random act, was it?" "Never was," you confirm, the words tasting like ash and victory. "It was always about silencing the truth. About protecting the politician's assent." Hours bleed into each other. Statements are taken. Evidence is catalogued. The murmur of voices, the click of cameras, the distant wail of sirens, all form a strange symphony of justice slowly being served. You recount your story, detailing the events, the connections, the long, winding path that led you back to this moment, to this bay. Each word is precise, deliberate, a brick laid in the foundation of the case. The strategist, now handcuffed and subdued, is led past you, his eyes meeting yours for a fleeting moment. There is no longer the icy disdain, no furious contempt. He says nothing, merely walks on, a defeated titan. The dawn begins to paint the sky in bruised purples and grays, seeping through the high windows of the bay. You feel an ache deep in your bones, a profound weariness that has nothing to do with physical exertion and everything to do with the relentless pursuit of a ghost. The politician's carefully crafted image, built on years of calculated charisma and veiled threats, is about to shatter. The news cycles will churn, the headlines will scream, and the public, once enamored, will reel from the revelations. Redemption. The word hangs in the air, a fragile, hard-won thing. It tastes bittersweet. You have brought the truth to light, exposed the rot at the core of power. But the cost. The years you lost, the badge you surrendered, the trust that fractured. The ghost of the murdered journalist, finally at peace, perhaps. But your own peace feels distant, elusive, a horizon you are still stumbling towards. The fight is over, but the processing has only just begun. You are here. You have done it. But the weight of what you have done, and what it means for the world, settles upon your shoulders, a mantle both heavy and just. You stand, your muscles stiff, and look out towards the rising sun, a new day breaking over a world irrevocably changed. Your gaze, sharp as a honed blade, sweeps across the formidable stacks of containers, their ribbed flanks rising like ancient, silent monoliths. Each one a potential crypt, a vault for secrets, or a stage for the truth you've painstakingly unearthed. You stand amidst the labyrinthine steel, a hum of distant machinery, a low thrum against the vast quiet. Never was, you confirm, the words tasting like ash and victory. It was always about silencing the truth. About protecting the politician's ascent. And this organization, pulling the strings from the shadows. A subtle shift in the bay's cavernous expanse draws your attention. You don't flinch. This moment, you realize, has been brewing for years, a storm gathering on the horizon of your disgrace. You knew they would come. This is your final confrontation, not just with a person, but with the very system that had devoured your past. Marcus Thorne, the voice echoes, surprisingly calm, cutting through the vast space. You feel the weight of the years, the burden of the journalist's unsolved murder, the stain on your badge, all coalescing into this singular, tense exchange. As the figure steps closer, the details sharpen, the tailored suit, the impeccably styled hair, the eyes that hold an unnerving depth of calculated cruelty. This is not some street thug. For a readiness that hums beneath your skin. And the truth, once exposed, is a powerful solvent. A faint, almost imperceptible sound reaches you, the distant whine of sirens, growing louder. Not the sirens of your enemies, but the reinforcements you had painstakingly cultivated, the few honest souls left in the department, the ones who believed in your redemption. This was the event you had planned, the trap sprung within the vast, indifferent maw of the port. The figure's eyes narrow, a flash of something akin to surprise, then an immediate, icy resolve. They understand. The game is up. But they are not one to surrender easily. You brace yourself. This isn't about a clean arrest anymore. It's about securing the evidence, about ensuring the truth you've uncovered sees the light of day. Your gaze flicks to a specific cargo container, one you'd marked, one you knew held the final, damning pieces, encrypted drives, ledgers detailing illicit transactions, the communication logs that tied the politician directly to the journalist's murder and the subsequent cover-up. This was the reveal/discovery, not just a single piece of evidence, but an entire vault of it, meticulously gathered. The first assailant lunges, a blur of motion, but you are ready. Years of instinct, honed by the street and sharpened by desperation, kick in. You sidestep, parrying a blow, feeling the familiar rush of adrenaline that, for too long, had been tainted by despair. Now, it feels clean, purposeful. You fight not just for your name, but for the memory of the journalist, for the idea that justice, however elusive, can still be grasped. The second assailant is quicker, more brutal. A heavy impact to your side, a flash of pain, but you push through it. The sirens are closer now, a chorus of rising urgency. You need to ensure that container asterisk is secured. A sharp crack, a controlled burst of energy from your concealed device, and the first assailant stumbles, momentarily disoriented. You pivot, using the momentum to create distance, your eyes never leaving the main architect of the conspiracy. Their face, usually a mask of control, now shows a flicker of genuine anger, a brief crack in the polished veneer. The cacophony of sirens culminates in a sudden rush of flashing lights and shouting voices. Uniformed officers flood the bay, weapons drawn, their presence a wave of ordered chaos. The architect hesitates, a moment of calculation, before their eyes land on you, a venomous promise. They know you've won this round, but the fight, for them, is far from over. The two assailants are quickly subdued, their resistance futile against the sudden influx of numbers. You watch as a determined detective, one of the few who had trusted your fractured narrative, moves directly towards the marked container, barking orders. The politician's fate, the organization's future, it all hinges on what lies within that steel box. The architect is being cuffed, their composure finally shattering into a grimace of defeat and fury. Their gaze finds yours one last time, a silent vow of retribution, but it holds less power now. The light has found them. The ghost of the journalist, the shadow of your past failure, begins to recede. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the clamor wash over you. The weight is lifted, not entirely, for the scars remain, but the crushing burden of the unavenged past is finally gone. You've walked through the fire, Marcus Thorne, and emerged, not unscathed, but forged anew. The badge may be gone, but the truth remains, a testament to your unwavering pursuit. The detective approaches you, their expression a mix of exhaustion and respect. "It's done, Thorne," they say, their voice low. "You did it." You nod, a slow, deliberate movement. The path ahead is uncertain, uncharted. There's no return to the old life, no easy re-entry into a world that once cast you out. But as you look out at the gray dawn beginning to paint the horizon, filtering through the girders and cranes of the port, you feel a new purpose stirring within you. Not redemption granted by others, but redemption earned, brick by painful brick. The ghosts are at peace.